During the early morning hours of a chilly autumn day, I ran away from home. The cause of my upset escapes me as 20 years has now passed, but likely a minor issue blown out of proportion on my behalf. I stumbled upon myself in the woods, conveniently situated across the street from my home. Normally, I avoid delving too deep into these woods, as the makeshift trail at the entrance dissipates rather quickly. Consumed by frustration over not having my way, I wandered through the woods, contemplating how this time I would truly succeed in causing my parents to worry. As I followed the morning misty path, I came across a couple of familiar landmarks. To the right, just beyond the entrance, lay a spot dubbed Pet Cemetery by myself and some neighborhood kids, inspired by the Stephen King story. I think it originated when we stumbled upon a dead bird there, but that was the most notable event involving deceased animals in that place. Moving forward, I noticed the assortment of trinkets hanging from the leafless branches, remnants of the decorations my friends and I had placed there. Intending to create a spooky atmosphere, they fell short of the mark. Approaching the end of the trail, where I typically halted my trek deeper into the woods, I paused for a while, grabbing out some water from my backpack and surveying the surroundings and contemplating with my decision to run away. It's only been like 20 minutes. I vividly recall stubbornly clinging to my upset feelings, unable to come to a rational resolution. So then, I made the choice to venture beyond the familiar path and delve further into the woods. Without the guidance of a trail, I found it much more difficult to traverse the woods. However, because of the season, there weren't many leaves or foliage scattered around. Amidst the trees, squirrels scampered energetically, while faint unidentified noises provided a subtle backdrop. The lingering mist draped the landscape, casting an otherworldly ambience, evoking both fascination and discomfort, a perfect blend for a boy my age. With each deliberate step, I braced myself for potential surprises lurking in the haze. Despite the underlying sense of apprehension, I did my best to embrace the journey as an adventure, eagerly seeking out intriguing sights to investigate. A little further along, my attention was captured by something distinctly different from its surroundings. Nearing it, its color sharpened into a striking red. Abruptly, a figure turned to face me, causing me to halt in my tracks. My gaze intensely focused on the object. Every nerve was alight with tension, and I was careful to not make any additional noise that could attract more attention. As soon as the figure made another move, I took off in the opposite direction, not wasting a moment. I threw cautious looks behind me to verify that nothing was behind me, as my heart was pumping. Eventually, a moment of clarity hit me, and I gradually came to a stop. As the breeze intensified slightly within the forest, it dawned on me that what I had seen was merely a shirt fluttering in the wind. Moving towards the shirt, its details became clear with each step. It was a red and black plaid flannel shirt, draped over a tree branch. Despite its grimy appearance, it looked as though it hadn't been exposed to the elements for very long. A short distance from my location, I spotted a small structure. It looked like an old destroyed shack, its walls mostly torn down or missing. With a growing sense of apprehension, I made my way inside to get a better look. As I ventured into the shack, I was greeted by a mess of debris scattered all about. In that moment, a loud explosion rang out, sending vibrations through the forest. What on earth was that? I had thought. I no longer had much interest in exploring the woods any further, and now just wanted to make my way back home. I began to act on my decision, though uncertainty clouded my sense of direction. Pausing for a moment, I surveyed my surroundings, trying to recall the route I had taken to arrive here. Deciding on what felt familiar, I started heading in that direction. Shortly after, I was once again alerted by an unusual sound. This time, it resembled the noise of something or someone running. Visibility was limited due to the distance and the enveloping mist, leaving me reliant on my hearing alone to determine where the sound was coming from. Whatever it was now moving fast. I hastened my pace towards what I hoped was the direction of my house. The sound of thumping grew louder, indicating it was drawing closer. My mind raced with thoughts of encountering a bear or wolf as I heard odd animal cries. I broke into a full sprint, desperate to escape whatever was roaming out there in the forest, its moans and sound of running persisting. In the distance, I spotted a large tree that seemed like a good spot to pause and catch my breath. The pounding echoes halted, replaced by the softer sounds of something walking. As I strained my eyes into the distance, an outline began to materialize, moving in my direction. I froze in terror as my anxiety was already so high. Poised to flee, I realized that the silhouette belonged to a deer. It appeared to be in poor condition, hobbling closer with evident struggle. When it was close enough for me to reach out, it suddenly collapsed, landing heavily on the ground. Approaching the deer, the blood made it clear it was injured. Watching it flail weakly, I felt helpless, unsure of how to respond. The sight was shockingly gruesome, unlike anything I had seen in real life, comparable only to what I've seen in films. Though it was hard to discern, it appeared as though the deer locked eyes with me in its final moments, drawing shallow breaths. More strange sounds began to reach my ears from afar. As they approached, they took on the distinct tone of whistling. The dense fog obscured my vision, making it challenging to determine the exact source of the sound, which seemed to echo from all directions. Trusting my instincts, I chose to run away as fast as I could. I did just that, abandoning the deer. As I made my escape, a man's voice cut through the silence, calling out, "Hey!" Glancing back as I continued to run, I could just make out the shadowy form of a man stepping out from the dense fog. Navigating through the swirling mist, the sound of shouting persisted, though the words remained indistinct. Fortunately, as I widened the gap between us, the shouts grew quieter and, to my relief, eventually faded away completely. I kept running until exhaustion forced me to pause for a breather. During this break, the distant murmur of traffic reached my ears, hinting at the proximity of the road. I had a strong hunch about which road it might be. As I caught my breath, I gradually began my last trek out of the woods, heading towards the road that lay not far from my home. Finally, I recognized my surroundings. Still agitated, I followed the fog-covered road towards my home. The images of the deer and the man lingered in my thoughts, refusing to leave as I made my journey back. The reason for my initial departure, my escape from home, had completely slipped my mind. All I desired was to be with my family again and express my regret for my reckless actions. My father decided to take additional steps, given that hunting was illegal in the forest near our home, especially out of the designated season. Despite our efforts to address the issue, we received no response. The events of that early morning still haunt, and I often find myself reliving the moments of encountering the dying, helpless deer and the poacher hidden within the depths of the forest.